friends. Welcome to Sky House Herbs podcast. I'm Ashley Ellenboss, a clinical herbalist, and in this space, I share my knowledge and experience with plant medicine to help you on your own journey of healing and transformation. Join me in exploring the ancient wisdom of plant spirit medicine and how it can be used to heal the body, mind, and spirit. We'll talk to experts in the field and share stories from people who've been transformed by powerful plant allies. New episodes are released each Monday, so please subscribe. And now, let's explore this mystical world of plant medicine together. Hey everyone, welcome in. Today we are going to talk about erotic herbs and what is erotica and how to awaken our own erotic nature. And this comes right in the season of Valentine's Day. So I'm going to share with you some of my favorite ways of thinking about the erotic, about the desire body. I'm going to share with you some rituals that you can try and see how these feel in your body to awaken your own passions. And I just want to say, this doesn't have to be about anyone else. This can just be for you. And I think sometimes when we hear erotic and desire and sexuality, we think, oh, this has to be, we have to have a partner, or I don't want to do that because I don't want to go there. But we should go there. I think we should go there. So today we're going to talk about this. Before we dive into today's content, if you're new to this channel, welcome in. So glad you're here. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please click the subscribe button. That way you can find me again and more people can find my work and learn about the magic and beautiful medicine of plants. So there's a few announcements I want to make before we get started. The first one is that I'm hosting a few events. I'm going to hop over to my website. So let's go and have a look at skyhouseherbs.com. This is where you can find out all of the things that I'm up to. If we go to skyhouseherbs.com, we go over to events and click on upcoming events. I will be teaching a love potion workshop at Tonkadale Plant Nursery on February 15th at 10 a.m. And so this talk is like a little bit of like a teaser into the types of things that we'll be talking about in this workshop. Registration is open. It's $35. Just click here and you will go to the Tonkadale website where you can grab a seat. And a lot of my workshops have sold out. So if you're thinking about it, go ahead and register now because I'd hate for you to miss out. And we're going to do medicine making, a lot of hands-on stuff in the workshop. But this is like kind of a good, precursor to the things we'll be studying there. I'm also going to be teaching at the Midwest Women's Herb Conference this year. This will be May 23rd to 25th in Alman, Wisconsin. It's a lovely event. My girls and I went last year and it was just wonderful. So if you'd like to come, click this register button and use the discount code HERBAL10 to save 10% on your tickets and lodging. So that's kind of cool. And then just to note that Adam, my husband, and I will be leading a spring equinox circle coming up in March. So stay tuned. We're still planning out the details. Registration will be opening soon. And last but not least, if you go to my courses page, you can see I have an Herbal Foundations apprenticeship, a second-year apprenticeship, and Roots and Spheres. The one that's coming up that is now open for registration is the year one. This is the place to start. So if you are new to herbalism or you've kind of dabbled, but you want to have more formal training, this is a 12-month online program. And one of the most important things about this course is that we offer need-based tuition. We really don't want anyone to feel priced out of being able to study herbs. So you can learn about the dates, all the modules on here. And if you scroll down, you can see we've got our early bird rate of $9.99. But if that's really out of your budget, we do have need-based tuition. So you can click here and fill out this need-based application. Let us know kind of what is going on in your life and how we can support you. When you submit this, you'll be transferred to 2 different payment options, and that'll allow you to either pay one time in full at a discounted rate or to space them out over 12 months. So, and even the regular tuition can be spaced out well. So if you click on here, 12 months, it's $9.99 or $9.92 if you want to click on 12 months. And then once we get past the early bird special date, you can also do $120 a month for um, the regular payments. So I just wanted to show you that these are coming up, and I'd love to see some of you in my upcoming herbal courses. All right, so let's talk. Let's talk. Let's get cozy and talk about the erotic and awakening the erotic. And this is something that I feel like as a woman, in my 40s now, I've done a lot of work on. And I know a lot of my friends and many of my clients over the years in my herbal practice, they get to a point where they're like, I know there's more. And they get curious. And I think that is a great place to start. So if you're curious, like, is there more to my desire body and to this world of the erotic? The answer is yes. It doesn't ever end. And I want to share with you just some insights and ways of framing this so that you can learn something and expand the way you experience your sensual body. The first thing I want to say is that desires are not bad. And I remember, I think a lot of us grow up thinking that if we desire things, it means we're being selfish. Or if we desire things, we are dirty or promiscuous, right? That if we have feelings of desire, it's as a woman, it's something that's wrong, it's something that's bad. And men can feel this way too. So I don't want to exclude men from this conversation because I think it's very cultural. And so I want to reframe and say that desire is information, that when we find ourselves desiring something, that is really helpful because it's showing us something that we're attracted to. And then we can ask deeper questions. Why am I attracted to that? And what is the emotion behind that attraction? Is it emotional? Is it a feeling of safety? If I have that thing or this person makes me feel safe, is the desire around I want to feel free? And there's an emotion of wanting to be adventurous or freedom seeking, or is it empowered? This one fantasy I have makes me feel very, embodied and empowered and strong. So anytime we have a desire, I think we want to follow it back to its root and say, what is that desire about? What is the emotion that I am interested in cultivating or exploring more? And you can just make a note of that. You don't have to do anything with it, but I think just noticing that and seeing when it shows up, where it shows up, how it shows up is really useful information in this work. I've been listening a lot to a therapist. Her name is Esther Perel. She's Belgium. I think I called her French before, but she's actually from Belgium. And she does a lot of work with couples counseling, a lot of work on the erotic body and the desire body, and has recently started episodes on looking at work relationships, which I thought was really interesting. But one of the things she said that really stood out to me is that sex is not an act, it's a place we go. And that just really reframed things for me because if we think about that, often we really limit the erotic and sexual topics to the physical act and like it's only things that happen in the bedroom. But what she has really challenged a lot of people to think about is no, actually, where we go is the most important piece because it's not just a thing we do, it's a place we go in our imagination, in our mind, and that where we go tells us information about the emotional state of how we are and what we need. So I think that's really interesting. And another thing she said that really stuck with me is that the erotic and sex itself is something that starts at the end of your last orgasm. And so, or you could think about like a high encounter. And so everything that you're doing that after that last climax is building the energy and building the charge. And I think when we think about it that way, then everything, all the communication we have with a partner, all of the ways we engage in our own lives can be sort of a bit of like foreplay, or it can be like a way of awakening um, this part of ourselves that is playful. And I think this is something that is really important, is like the erotic is a playful zone. It doesn't have to mean or do anything. It's just a place we can inhabit in our lives. And it's a way of being in our everyday lives. Um, and I think one of the things I wanted to talk about is like, well, how do we get there? Like, what are the steps? And maybe before we go into that, I did want to say, like, if there's been trauma around sex, like maybe there's been rape or, anything where there's been some sort of traumatic event, this can make it really hard. This can make it harder to feel like our desire body is a safe place. And so for some people, not making it about trying to push through to the act, but some of these practices and rituals I'm going to share with you might be a good entry point. And how do you connect with your desire body in everyday activities like, reading a book or washing your own face or washing your own body or washing the dishes or putting away your clothes? Every single thing we do can be done with a spirit of being connected to that playful, curious, and sensual part of ourselves, because we are these sensual beings. We have senses, and on a very basic level, our senses are what bring us alive. Connecting to the senses in most meditation practices is the way we connect to the present moment. And so just, how you put away your clothes can be something that you can do. You can say, I'm going to just connect to the act of putting away my clothes and connect to my senses and how I put my clothes away. So that's, I think, that would be step one, is finding the sensual in daily activities. And part of how we do that is by slowing down. And this is something that Esther Perel talks a lot about. And I know, in my own client practice and in my own personal life, that it's really hard for people to be in their pleasure body when they're on to the next thing. Because when you're living in the future, there's no way, like no one's home to experience the sensual body. So part of the gift of these practices is that we start to slow down and we start to feel, oh gosh, this feels really good to lay here and to read. And oh my gosh, the smell of this peppermint tea is like so enjoyable. And that is erotic. So again, like everything can have this flavor. And as if that part of you has been shut down, then these are all very safe ways of on your own entering back in. Another ritual way of connecting to the sensual is through art. And art can be a lot of different things depending on who you are and your ways of expressing yourself. But it could be drawing, it can be painting, it can be writing, it can be playing music. And so something where you kind of have to step out of your linear mind and enter into a creative zone. And it's kind of like when Esther Perel says, sex is a place we go. Well, art can be a place we go to. It's outside of the mundane. It's a place we go in our mind. And so when you're doing art, can you enter into what they call the flow state? And when you enter into that flow state, your body changes. You can feel it. And they've done studies that have shown that people that are, when people enter a flow state of work or art, their heart rate goes down, like all of their vital senses and, things move into harmony, hormonal harmony, and production of dopamine and all of these wonderful neurotransmitters get kickstarted when we enter that flow state. So think about art and how can you start to engage in art. And I recently started painting. Let me just show you. I started painting, and this is the piece that I'm working on right now. And it's been such an incredible process. That's my daughter. She was painting with me the other day. She painted some hot cocoa. um, but I'll tell you all, like, truly, I've been painting for like an hour each day for 3 weeks, and it's changing my life. Like, I mean, I know that sounds a little dramatic, but like it really is, because I'm learning how to problem solve and get creative. And I'm learning how to mess up and then just paint over it. And like, also, I'm learning how to push myself. I'm like, that looks good enough, but it could look better. And then pushing myself to make it better. And all of that is starting to translate into my life, in my relationships, and in other things like cleaning my house. Like, my art, that zone, and knowing I have way more capacity than I thought I did because of my art, is showing up in my life. So consider that. Consider doing something artistic every day, even if it's 10 minutes. Find that little that zone. The second thing is dance, or some sort of movement is such a great way to connect to the erotic body. And, I remember, I lived alone for many, many years in different apartments in DC and Silver Spring and Tacoma Park and Asheville. And I loved at night turning down the lights, lighting candles, and dancing just by myself. And like, I would dance to Gabrielle Roth's Five Rhythms. That is excellent. I'll try to remember to include a link to the Five Rhythms. That's a great or not self-led, but like a guided dance sequence through the five rhythms. It's like the five elements. It's fabulous. So let me I'll include a link so you can find that on YouTube. But just putting on your favorite music and like really feel your body. Where does your body want to go? Where does your body not want to go? Learning about the way you can move your energy and your Shakti, as they call it, in the Eastern traditions, and liberating your Shakti through movement is so wonderful. And even walking, like if you're like, I'm not going to dance by myself, go for a walk. And as you walk, move your hips a little bit, right? Like, find a little bit of swagger in your walk next time you're walking to work or walking from the parking lot into the grocery store. Like, do it and watch how changing your movement can change your perception and can change your awareness and change your sensual aware experience, but like your sensual excitement even. Okay. And then the third thing is, well, actually, I already talked about this, connecting to your pleasure body in daily activities. And again, anything can become pleasurable, like tidying up my desk can become a pleasurable activity, petting my dog, taking out the trash, and like just being slow and mindful about it. Anything slowed down can become very pleasurable. All right. So those are the rituals. Now I wanted to talk about, oh, wait, there's one more. There's one more. And this one is touching a little bit more on the sexual side, which is engaging in touch without the act of sex. And this is something that can be done on your own or with a partner, that can really build that erotic connection and awareness. And so, one of the exercises that Esther Perel recommended to a couple that was struggling with intimacy was like, let the driver drive, or let the driver drive the driver, or something like that. But basically, she was like, whoever is the one that's having the harder time being open to intimacy, like take your partner's hand and place it a place that feels good for you. And she's like, it can be the face, it can be the neck, anywhere that's a non-erotic zone, right? So there's certain, so, but like any other place, like where is going to feel really good and safe for you, and just spending time there and making an agreement that no matter what happens, you're not going to go to that next place, and that will build up a charge like pretty amazingly quickly. And so if you get into that practice of just intimate touch with a partner or intimate touch with yourself, that will start to help you get more confidence in what your body enjoys and what your body likes. Okay, now let's talk about herbs. So I'm going to talk about 3 herbs. The first one is like my hands down favorite. And so if you're interested, if you're enjoying this conversation and you want an herb, like maybe you want to re-listen to it and brew yourself a cup of tea, this is the herb I would recommend that you start with, is Damiana. So the Latin name is Ternera diffusa. This is a plant native to Mexico and the Baja region. And it was used as not only I mean, I don't think it was used as an aphrodisiac. It was really used more as an endurance tonic for when people would take long pilgrimages or long trips. And you can brew the tea and take it, like just like any sort of hot infusion. I would steep it. You don't have to steep it that long, maybe 7 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes. Otherwise, it starts to get kind of astringent and a little bitter. So it's a short steep because of all those volatile oils. So maybe start with half a teaspoon in 1 cup for 5 minutes and then see how you like it. And maybe brew it longer if you want more flavor, and stronger if you want more flavor. But I think that's a good starting place. Um, but the way that they used it in Mexico is they would grind up the herb, and we're talking about the aerial parts, the leaves and the flowers, and powder it, and then make that into breads and energy balls. And they would travel with those in pouches and eat those along long journeys, um, because it also just helps you to feel good. It's an herb that really, it's interestingly, it's both stimulant and relaxant, and I think that's why it works so well for this purpose. Because in order to feel aroused, we have to feel relaxed and safe, but we also need to be aroused and stimulated. So this herb does both. It both calms and excites. And it's interesting because different people respond differently. And I find that it kind of does whatever your body needs. So if you need more relaxation, for many people, it helps with relaxation. If you need more stimulation, then you might find it's more stimulating. So try it out, see what you think. I also like to add it to chocolates, and that's one of the things we're going to do in the herbal workshop. Is I'm going to teach you how to make herb infused love chocolates, which is they work and they're wonderful. So this is a really nice one. You can drink it just when you're sitting around doing your own pleasurable activities like reading or watching a movie. And it's also a really nice one to have with a partner before maybe you do the touch exercise or before you engage in intimacy. It's a really beautiful herb for connecting you to that part of your body and connecting partners together. So I think that's my first herb. The second herb is rose. And rose, I think, just works really nicely, especially if there's been trauma. Because when there's been trauma, there's often fear and there's often holding. And what I find rose does is it really helps soften and open up the heart. Um, and when there's been trauma, like we can often sometimes feel unsafe. And I just think about the thorns on the rose bush protecting those tender roses. And so when we take in rose petals as a medicine, we often feel like I'm okay, like I'm boundaried and I'm open. And that's a really nice place to be when working with your erotic body. Another way to take it is through a glycerin. And this is probably my number one. I recommend this to all my herb students. It's by Mother Hild and it's called Damask Rose. And I'll include a link. Last year, she sold out of them because all of my students bought them when we were using this one in our class. So, but it's expensive because roses are expensive, but it is so powerful. And I took this one for grief when my dog passed. So it's just healing for the heart, soothing for trauma, and opening to that part of our hearts and our emotional body. And I wanted to mention, how do you brew it as a tea? So what I like to do is, because it's so astringent and drying, and most of us don't want to get dried out if we're trying to engage in our sensual body. I like to brew this as a cold infusion alongside marshmallow root and cinnamon bark. So what I'll often do is I'll take a quart-sized mason jar, which is about 4 cups, and I'll do maybe a half a cup of dried organic rose petals. I'll do maybe a half a cup or a quarter cup, depending on how much you like marshmallow root or not, into that jar. And then maybe I'll do like a few tablespoons of cinnamon bark. And you can do also like a teaspoon of cinnamon powder if that's all you have. And fill it with cool water. Let it steep maybe 8 to 12 hours and then strain it. It's so good. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's like heart medicine and like emotion medicine. So you can try that. And then I think I have actually, if you want to see me make that particular infusion, if you go to my herbal playlist, Herbs of the Month playlist, you can click on rose. I have a whole video on rose you can listen to for more detailed information, and you can watch me make that particular tea blend. Okay. Then the last one is ginger. And I think ginger is very underutilized when it comes to awakening the erotic body. It is a wonderful, warming, blood circulating stimulant. And so this is really good for getting, our whole body warmed up and increasing sensitivity, especially in the fingers, in the lips, in the genitals, in the feet. A lot of the places, a lot of our erotic zones really get lit up when we take ginger root. Now, I have here powdered ginger root. This works really nice when you're making herbal, chocolates. But as a tea, it's really nice to use the fresh root, and I'm all out of it right now, but just take about 3 slices of the root and put it in some hot water. And you can add a little bit of honey if you want, but it will really warm you up. And this time of year in the winter, too, our bodies tend to be cold, and we tend to have maybe reduced sensitivity in our fingers and toes and lips because our blood is all pumping close to the heart to keep us warm. And so using something like ginger to just let our bodies relax because of the heat, let our tips of our fingers and toes and other areas get more heat and blood flow to them can really increase sensitivity. And we can, sometimes it's like you didn't even know you were feeling a certain way until you bring blood to it. And then you're like, oh. So ginger is great for that, as a tea or as a powder. And you can, slip it into cookies, all sorts of things. Ginger can fit really nicely into a lot of different dishes. Also with ginger, I wanted to mention that you can use it as a massage oil. So you could infuse ginger into oil. I would do the dried root, not the fresh, because the water will spoil the oil. But you can do use a hot water bath and then infuse dry ginger in the oil and use that as a body oil. I wouldn't use that on your more sensitive bits, if you know what I mean, because it might burn, but you can definitely use it on the hands, the feet, the back, any place that you might give yourself or offer a partner a more general massage. And that's a great addition. So I think that's all I have for today. I would love to hear your thoughts. And, obviously this is a sensitive subject. So, I understand if you want to maybe keep it home, but I'd love to just hear how it hit you. Like, I would love to hear was this helpful? I'd love to see a thumbs up if you liked it. If you don't want to say anything, just give me a thumbs up in the video so I know you watched it and you found this conversation to be helpful. And if you have anything to share, of course, I would love to hear it. If there's any other herbs, in the herbal workshop I'll be teaching at Tonkadale, I'm going to talk about maca, horny goatweed, kava, and a few other herbs as well. But if you have experience with other plants, please do share that. So that's all we have for today's episode. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.